Hi guys, I'm Katie. I'm from Parkersburg, West Virginia. I am in recovery from drug addiction. I was a drug addict for about 15 years. Um, Started when I was in like high school, just partying and you know, had a couple of kids pretty young and abused prescription medications, pain meds and nerve pills, as well as ADHD medications. I had some diagnoses that were spoken over me at that time in my life, and so I eventually ended up abusing these pharmaceuticals pretty heavily for about 10, 12 years. And then I got into recovery for the first time in 2009. I was clean and sober from 2009 to 2013 from all mind-altering, mood-altering substances, but I relapsed and went back into rehab in 2015 and was introduced to Jesus at that point, and Jesus is a means of recovery. So that was when I met my friend Tim and began to learn scripture and began to learn that Jesus came to give us life and give us life more abundantly, and that I didn't have to struggle with drug addiction anymore. By this point, through the relapse, I began to be an IV drug user. I had just lost relationships with my children. I've been to jail. I have two kids, like I said. And I've been to jail, and just totally, my relationships with my family were just completely shattered. I wasn't even allowed in the house, at my parents' house, and so even in that time, though, even in 2015, I still didn't really get it. I still relapsed a few times. So in November 30th of 2017, I had just a radical encounter with Jesus at my pastor's house, actually. I had gotten into trouble, and I was staying with a friend, and she had found needles at her house, which was pretty upsetting for her. So I went to my pastor's, and I'd taken drugs with me to my pastor's house, which was pretty awful, but I took drugs with me, and at her house I decided that I was going to get rid of the drugs rather than do them. So what I did was I lined my will up with the will of God. And once I did that first initial, just lining my will up with the will of God, because I know it wasn't God's will for me to keep getting high, it wasn't God's will for me to keep shooting up, it was not God's will for me to be suffering and to be in bondage. So once I accepted that and I lined my will up with what the will of the Lord was for my life, which was for me to prosper, for me to have abundant life, for me to be free, for me to live without any shame about my past, and just to be free, that step, once I took that step, from then the grace came. I had the faith to take the step, and then the grace came over my life and my situation, and now it's been 10 months, and I've been clean and sober, and I actually live at my parents' house right now, which is amazing that I live here with my daughter, and I'm rebuilding a relationship with my son, and I'm involved with High on Hope Ministries, and I get to minister to people every day that are in bondage, and to tell them that there's a way out, and if you're struggling, there's a way out, and the Lord wants to come in, and He wants to change your life, and He wants to love you, He wants you to have a relationship with Him. So I just encourage you to reach out, and thank you for letting me share my testimony.